Right, one thing that you need to be aware of when you're crocheting different stitches is that different places have different terminology. In other words, America uses one set of terms, whereas Britain or the British English use a different set of terms. So, for example, the United States says that a single crochet is called a single crochet, but in the British English, a single crochet is a double crochet. So if you're getting confused about, it looks the same as what you're crocheting, but it's called something else, this is very important. Your half a double crochet is called that in the USA, but in the British English, it's a half a treble. So you've got a variation there. Then in the USA, a double crochet in your British English would be considered a treble. So just remember that. It's pretty important to know if you are from a different country. I'm working with the American terms, so if you get confused, just remember that your terms might be a little bit different. Alright, so let's take a look at some different stitches. Now, crocheting is really forming patterns out of the different stitches that you have. So in other words, you have a half a double, you have a chain, you have your double crochet, and you're just putting those different stitches together to form different patterns. So that's really the whole concept of your crocheting, is just putting stitches together, the different stitches. So that's why I say once you've learnt your stitches, you can make anything really. You can design your own patterns, you can do, the sky's the limit. But it's just getting to learn these stitches, which is the first part. So I want to go ahead and show you how to do a few of the basic stitches. You do get your slip stitch, but I want to show you that after I've shown you these. So I've shown you how to do single crochet. Now I want to go ahead and show you how to do half a double. Half a double is when you're doing your stitches, they increasing in height. Half a double is the next stitch in the height, and I will get to all of that. I'm just trying to get you to see the stitches. So to do a half a double, once again, your hook is always facing you. So to do the half a double, your hook will be facing you again, and you're going to wrap your yarn around. Now, you're going to go into the next stitch, same as the other one, whether you go through these two. Generally, you would be going through those two unless your pattern specifies something else. So with your crochet hook facing you, this hook part here, wrap the yarn around your hook, go into that stitch, and then you bring this yarn through. Now for your half a double, you're going to wrap the yarn around, yarn over, and go through all three of those in one go. Now you've just made your half a double crochet. Alright, so for the half a double, wrap your yarn around your hook, go into the next stitch, wrap your yarn around and bring that loop through, and then wrap your yarn around and go through all three stitches, and there's your half a double. So yarn over into your stitch, yarn over, pull a loop through, yarn over, go through all three. Yarn over, go into your stitch, yarn over, bring a loop through, yarn over, go through all three of the loops on your hook. Yarn over, go into your stitch, yarn over, bring through a loop, yarn over, and through all. And there you have a half a double crochet. And each of these stitches have their place in your crocheting pattern, and some you use more often than stitches fairly regularly, so it's good to get familiar with them. So yeah, yarn over, go into your stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through all three. Yarn over into your stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, and through all three. And there you've done your half a double. Alright, so let me go ahead and show you how to do your double crochet stitching. Now I want to go ahead and show you the double crochet. This is what the double crochet in the American English is. Now for your double crochet, you wrap your yarn around, you go into your stitch, bring up a loop. Now the difference between the half a double and the double is that your double, wrap your yarn around, you're going through two stitches, and then you go through two. that would be your double crochet. So once again, wrap your yarn around your hook, go into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2 and go through 2. So that's why you have to memorize these, because they can get a little tricky when you're thinking, gosh, how did I do the half a double versus this one? But it's you get familiar with this very quickly. So just stick to it, and just stick with a few stitches. Do a whole bunch of single crochets until you know them. Then you do a whole bunch of doubles till you know those. So once again, yarn over your hook, go into your stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, go through 2 and go through 2. Yarn over, go into your stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop, go through 2 and go through 2. And that's your double crochet. Yarn over, into the loop, into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2 and go through 2. And that's as simple as it is. Yarn over, go into your stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, go through 2. And that is your double crochet. Go through 2 and go through 2. And there you have your double crochet, and you can see that's the double and that's the half a double. See how this is a lot more dense than what your double crochet is. But that's how you do the double crochet. Now I want to go ahead and show you how to do the triple or the treble stitch, and that goes even higher than this one. So let's go ahead and do that stitch. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the treble. Now this is how high your treble stitch is in comparison to your double. So to do that, you're going to take your yarn and wrap it around 1, 2 times. Okay, the double only wrapped around once. Now you're going to wrap it around twice, and then you're going to do the same thing. Go into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2, and go through 2. And that gives you your treble or double treble. Okay, this is your treble. So yarn over, go into your stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and bring up a loop, and you're going to go through 2 stitches, go through 2 and go through 2. Okay, very easy. Wrap your yarn around your hook twice, go into your stitch, wrap your yarn over, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2 and go through 2. Okay, one more time, yarn over twice, go in your loop, yarn over, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2 and go through 2. And there you have your treble. Very easy. It's all using much the same technique, you know, wrapping your yarn over it, just knowing how many times and how many loops to go through at a time. But there you have your treble stitch. I'm going to show you one more stitch, which is your double treble. That's going to make this even higher. So I'm going to go ahead and show you one more stitch, and then we are done with the basic stitches. Alright, so this is our double treble in the USA. Yeah, I've made one, and you can see it's quite a bit higher than this one over here. And this is simply to remember that you're wrapping it around your hook 3 times. So 1, 2, that would have made your treble. One more time is going to give you your double treble. So you're wrapping it around your hook 3 times. Okay, and doing the same thing. Go into your stitch, wrap around, bring up a loop, and now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on your hook. Alright, bring your yarn over, go through 2, and you should have 4 left. Go through 2, 3 left, go through 2, 2 left, and through there. And it's exactly the same concept, except you have an extra wrap around, and you just keep going through 2, going through 2. So 1, 2, 3 times. Go into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2, go through 2, and go through 2. So you just keep going through the 2 until you have no more, till you just have your 1 stitch left. 1, 2, 3 times around, go into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2, go through 2, and go through 2. And there you have your double treble. And it's quite a bit taller than this stitch, as you can see. So those are your stitches. Then I just need to show you the slip stitch, which I have not shown you yet, and I'm going to simply do it over here for you. I'm just going to turn my work around and do this first one. So to do the slip stitch, you're going to just go into your stitch, bring up a loop, and now you're going to go through both of these at the same time. That's your slip stitch. So in there, bring up a loop and go through both of them at the same time. So it's one clean swoop in here and go through both of these at one time. And look there, it brings your work in quite a bit, and it's just called a slip stitch. And often you use that if you're trying to get from one stitch to another and you don't want to use a single crochet or anything, you would use that stitch. But that's all of your stitches. Those are all of the stitches that I'm wanting to show you in this lesson. Now what I want to do is I just want to go through all of them together so you can see what we are doing. So once you've mastered all those stitches that I've shown you, I want to just recap all of them together for you. It's very important that you learn these stitches. Just remember them, practice them, just do a whole bunch of single crochets, a whole bunch of half a doubles, until you're familiar with how they are actually made. So I'm going to just show you each stitch one after the other, and it just helps you get familiar with them. So let's go ahead and let's just see how you do. Alright, so the very first stitch is going to be a single crochet. So you just put your hook into the stitch, bring up a loop, and go through both stitches. Alright, that's your single crochet. Your half was wrapping around, go into your stitch, wrap your yarn around, bring up a loop, and then you go through all three. That's your half. Your double, yarn over, go into the stitch, bring your yarn through, go through 2, and go through 2. That's your double. Your treble, wrap your yarn around twice, go into your stitch, bring up a loop, go through 2, go through 2, and go through 2. And that's your stitch progression. So learn those, memorize how to do them, and then you shouldn't have any problem with the patterns that we're going to be doing. Alright, so I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about the gauge of your project and just the tension when you crochet. If you take a look at your granny squares, you can see these have the exact same amount of rows as each other. But, sorry, they have the same amount of rounds. But this one is a little bit smaller than this one. And it's both the same yarn and hook. Now this one's tension is slightly tighter than this one. And you end up having a slightly smaller garment or whatever item you are making. So you need to take this into consideration. Now patterns will give you their gauge as to the gauge that they crocheted at, and that's what you want to take into consideration, because if you're crocheting something, yours might come out smaller than what theirs does simply because of the gauge. And so for example, if we take our hat which we crocheted here and we want to see, okay, what is the gauge to this hat, you can just either take an actual measuring gauge, or you can take your ruler, or you could take your measuring tape. It just depends. Now if you take this is a 2-inch size over here, so you generally want to do at least a 2-inch little swatch. This would be considered a swatch here that I've done over here. You just crochet a small little square, which is something that you're going to measure by. But so for example, I would now measure mine over here. You'd put one stitch, there's a stitch there, there, and there. So if I put it on the end of the stitch, I can see that in 2 inches I have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets. So I know then that I have 4 double crochets in 2 inches. And then if I come up to see how many rows I really have 2 rows in 2 inches. So I have a gauge of 4 double crochets and 2 rows or rounds per 2 inches. and that's what you want to compare to the gauge that the pattern will give you. So that's very important to know. And then if their pattern has 5 double crochets and you have 4, and then you're going to have to see, okay, mine is not going to be the same as theirs. So you either have to get a bigger or smaller crochet hook or crochet until you can get 5 double crochets into your 2 inches. And that's just a real basic thing about measuring your gauge. So that's just something really good to know about your tension, about measuring your gauge and looking at a pattern as to what their gauge says. Alright, so I just want to go through something. If you have a look at your label, you can see here that they give you a little square. In other words, this square that has been crocheted is going to be your little swatch, and they have made it 4 inches by 4 inches, okay, which is 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. And they're saying that in the 4 inches they are making 16 single crochets and 19 rows. Alright, so that's your gauge, the little swatch in this yarn with the 3 and a size crochet hook, which is a 6 or a G or a 4 millimeter. When they crocheted this in a 4-inch square, they got 16 single crochets in 19 rows. So this is very important because when you're crocheting, your tension will be different to somebody else's tension. You might crochet very loosely and others might crochet very tightly. So this is a pretty good method for you to use to see if yours is the same thing. But you know, this is when you're following a pattern and you're not just making your own thing. You want to be pretty accurate with your swatch, because otherwise your pattern is going to come out differently. But I just wanted to show you that specific little thing on here, and it's usually better to follow a swatch than just say, okay, the 3 light is going with a 4 millimeter crochet hook, which is fine. That's fine if you're making a scarf or something. But if you're really making a garment that you want it to be very accurate, you're best off making a swatch and adjusting yours accordingly. And by adjusting it, I mean, you might, if you crochet very tightly, you might need to use a slightly larger crochet hook versus theirs so that you can reach the same gauge. So you would want to crochet with either a different yarn or hook just to get the same gauge as they are, so that your whatever pattern you follow will be exactly the same. So yeah, let's keep going. Well, I hope that you've learned something in this session, and let's go on to our next session.